Hello, it's layperson Lisa with a reflection on the readings for the 16th Sunday in Ordinary Time. Going to talk about 3 P's today: preparation, presence, peace. So in the first reading, we hear how the Lord appears as 3 people at the opening of the tent of Abraham, and him and Sarah prepare a meal for them. They prepare to offer them drink. They prepare their hearts just to open up in hospitality and love and joy to welcome this presence. And it's very different than how Martha is preparing in the gospel. Martha is doing all this work, preparing her home for Jesus, preparing the meal, and she's complaining. And so how often in our lives do we do service, but not joyfully? If we're not doing service joyfully, then it becomes work. It becomes a burden. And that's what was happening with Martha. She was burdened. She was having anxiety and worry. And so often that can happen to us. But so often in the things that we are challenged with in our lives, the struggles, the trials, the challenges, God is preparing us. He is preparing our hearts. He is preparing us to maybe be able to grow in a virtue. He's preparing us in this virtue so that when this challenge or trial is presented, we keep our eyes focused on Him and can invite Him into the situation so that we don't lose our focus. And that's what was happening with Martha today. She lost her focus. Like, Jesus is in her house. Like, whoa, amazing. And she's just focused on the things that she has to do, the things that she's burdened with. But how many times in our lives are we in the presence of Jesus and we're just burdened and consumed and have anxiety and worry? You know, we went on this pilgrimage to these northeastern Catholic sites as a cluster parish, and one of the people that I was talking with, we were talking about, like, oh, well, what if Jesus lived today? Like, how would we respond differently? Because if you think about it, like, the apostles who lived with him for 3 years, they didn't respond any differently than a lot of us would. Like, Peter was like sometimes doubting and putting his foot in his mouth and saying the wrong things and not truly trusting and believing Jesus. And if he was in our midst today, would we really respond any differently? And the woman and I were talking, and like, well, he is present in us. He is present to us through one another. He is present to us in our hearts. He is present to us in the tabernacle. He is present to us at every single Mass, in the Eucharist, and in the body of Christ. And when we practice the presence of God, Brother Lawrence has this amazing book. It's a small read. It's like 80 pages, but it's so beautifully done. Like, Brother Lawrence, he was a porter, someone who answered the door. And he did it with joy because he treated every single person like they were Jesus. He treated them like he was in the presence of Jesus because he was. He was able to open his heart and be able to have this wisdom, right? To see as God sees. Like, he sees the Jesus in the person. And when God the Father looks at us, he sees the Jesus in us. And just take a moment to let that soak in. That when God the Father looks at you, he sees Jesus, because Jesus is present in our heart, and we are made in his image. And so when we practice his presence, we can sanctify, we can our ordinary tasks. So the other day I was sitting outside and I was just reading, I was just puttering around the yard. And I just imagined when I sat down to read that Jesus was in the chair next to me, because he truly is, right? He is in the presence. I'm in his presence. And so this allows us to turn ordinary tasks, menial, what we may see as menial tasks, into tasks that can sanctify us. And they can help prepare our hearts for being more open to Jesus' presence. And when we have our focus on the presence of Jesus, then what does that do? That brings us peace. It doesn't allow the trials and tribulations of our lives to cause us the anxiety and worry that that maybe Martha was experiencing. But Mary, she sat at the feet of Jesus and just reveled being in his presence. And he calls us to do the same. He calls us to revel in him in every moment. When we are in nature, when we are in the presence of others, when we are doing acts of service, when we do those acts of service with love and joy, then we are sanctifying our environments. We are when we're sacrificing things that we don't like to do, when we offer those sacrifices, like, okay, Lord, I really don't like to do this, but I'm going to do this with joy. And Lord, I just ask that you merit graces for me and the people that I encounter. And that can turn that act that we don't necessarily like to do into a beautiful, holy act, a beautiful act of charity. And I think the important thing is when we don't do ministry with joy and love, then we're not practicing the presence of Jesus. And we're not in a place of peace. Sometimes, like, oh, got to do this again. Like, oh, I don't want to do this. Oh, I have to go here. Like, no, like, these are opportunities for us to be sanctified. These are opportunities for us to be to grow in virtue. These are opportunities to offer these tasks to Jesus so that he may merit graces, that he may sanctify these ordinary acts and make them extraordinary and bring us the peace that only comes from him. And so when we practice these preparatory things, it can help. So for instance, like when we do little acts that maybe annoy us, but we do them as a way to be purified in patience, then this helps prepare us for larger trials and struggles, because we have been purified in that patience. We've grown in that patience. We're not we're sacrificing the sorrow that we may want to feel, like the pity party that we may want to have. Like, no, we're sacrificing, we're offering it to Jesus. Like, okay, Lord, this is suffering, and I am offering it, I'm uniting it with your suffering, and so that it could be redemptive. And when we do this, then the Lord just washes over us with his peace, the peace of his presence. We are always in the presence of the Lord. And so when we prepare our hearts to be able to see him in the ordinary, these things become extraordinary. And then we are just filled with the peace of Jesus. So what acts, what work in your life that you don't like to do? Allow the presence of God to enter into those things so that they can be pure, so that your heart can be prepared to encounter those who the Lord is calling you to minister to, and that he can bring you the peace that only he can amidst the struggles.